Welcome to the Slade Ham experiment, everybody. I would be Slade Ham. You would be aboard the midnight spaceship. This would be a toast to you, whether you're new, old, familiar with the show, unfamiliar with the show. We will take a rough trodden, is that the word? Ramshackle? That's not the word. A trip through my head today. I've been thinking about a lot of things, and some of them may help you. I do not know. Because for some reason, in the last week or two, I've gotten so many messages from people who were like, it's crumbling, you know? And I empathize on so many levels, every one of them a little bit differently. Some of them have gotten bad medical news. Some of them are having financial issues. Some of them are having familial issues. It is just seems like the whole world is on the verge of collapse. And I just want you to know, if you're one of those people, not one of those people, but one of those people in general, you're not alone. Let's talk some shit about it, shall we? Most of you know, I have, if you go back many episodes in the past, I have spent a lot of time railing against social media, and not just as a professional, but as a human being, observing how we consume it. And as a professional, I've been walking through the thought process of how to approach it and making sure that I'm not making any hasty moves and that I'm also making some moves, right? There's a middle ground. Some neutral buoyancy is what I'm after. So I'm talking to my friend Adam, who is a wonderful director. And he laughingly tells me, man, we could have just been HVAC, mechanics. We could have just gone to school for a couple of months and learned to do, what does HVAC stand for? Heat, air conditioning, and I don't know what the V stands for. Vacuum? It's not. Why would there be vacuum? I don't know. That's how good I would not be at it. So, we just did that, man. You could go move an AC unit for $15,000. Here's what it would cost. Here's how much you'd pocket. Everybody be taking home $25,000 a month. He goes, that wouldn't be a bad living. We could just quit all this trying to figure out how to turn our stuff into something digestible for the public, right? And trick them. So I said, yeah, that's true. I go, except this is where I'm at. I'm trying to not cobble together a version of my future that is made of only the parts available to me now. Does that make sense? I think, and I'm thinking of all these people that I've spoken to over the last couple of weeks in my own personal life with their own personal issues, and I think about the things I'm thinking about and the things I'm up against, and they're similar to exactly what everyone else is. And we always think that our options are limited to what our options are in the moment, and we try to make predictions on what will make us happy based on what's available. And I'm not interested in that, because if you ask me to design, this is what I think we should do. We should think about our lives. It's hard to do it in a vacuum, but without the constraints that things like income bring or obligation. If you removed all the stuff that we think we have to do, I got to make a living. I got to take all that off the table and just go, what is a perfect day? Write it down. Describe it. How do you wake up in the morning? Where do you wake up in the morning? Who's there when you wake up in the morning? What happens after that? What kind of breakfast do you eat? How healthy is your food? How beautiful is your environment? Is it clean? Is it messy? Is it dirty? Is it contemporary? Is it old-fashioned? Is it expensive? Is it Spartan? All of these things you should have a version of in your head. Wow, what would feel the best? For me, I think about the creative efforts that I'm into. I think about the things I'm trying to make. A lot of stand-up, a book. I like to write. I like wordplay. I like creating things of that nature. I like making films. I like telling stories. That part will probably always be part of my day if I have any say so. I like solving puzzles with my mind. I like identifying puzzles and patterns and mucking with them and seeing where they connect. That's something I enjoy. So I want my days to be full of that kind of exercise. Is that a way to describe it? I also want to be around people I deeply care about, people who make me feel like what I'm contributing to the world has purpose and meaning and is appreciated. I want more of those people in my life, more time with family, more opportunities to influence the young children in my orbit and my gravity. And all of these things are what I want more of. Nowhere in there, if I was designing the perfect world for myself, would I think, man, I sure should go get that HVAC certification, because what I don't spend enough time doing is crawling around in attics like a bat and sweating my soul out. That's not a slap to anyone who is legitimately artistically moved by working on air conditioners. That actually might be, I don't know because I haven't done it, but when you get in the guts of it all, there might be a problem worth solving in there. I don't know. But from my limited perspective, that's not how I would design my day. Nor would I design my day to include this disposable bullshit social media output, to fake talking about things I don't care about. That's the whole meat of it, right? And it's not just because I naturally push against that. I swallow part of that. Part of that's part of the job. But as I was explaining to someone else earlier today, when you know the environment you're optimized for, which is sort of the one I think about, the one I daydream about, I know that's where my best output comes from. A world that looks like that to me and feels like that to me and is devoid of all of these stressors that exist in the one I've lived in or have experienced for so long, right? So when I think about that, I think about how these companies have, I know this because I've dealt with it 3 times in the last month. It's an intentional, torturous, complex interface that you have to navigate. I don't know if you've tried to do, I don't know if this only happens on the business side of social media, but I don't know if you've tried to solve an access problem or any other problem through the Meta or YouTube or Google business pages. I am not a stupid person. You can drop me off anywhere in the world, and with nothing more than a paper map that I steal from a gas station and some context clues that I pull off of a street sign, I can probably find my way right back home through all the trials and tribulations that may find me. I'm scratching my nose because it's like allergy season. But sometimes when you scratch your nose, the body language tells people you're lying. And I wasn't lying about that. I could do that. I just also had a nose itch while I was saying it. So anyway, my point is that I'm not dumb. And I, 3 times now in the last month, one, trying to organize my Google Ads account and get that connected to a Facebook account that was connected to an Instagram account that was connected to a credit card that was connected to some form of identification or 2-factor authentication that was also connected to 6 other forms of blood type identification, your firstborn kid that you haven't even had yet. Once you get through all of that, then maybe you just put another password in that resets it's the most. I had to get someone to do it for. I just said, here, do it. I can't. It's so unintuitive. Then on YouTube, out of nowhere, the Whiskey Brothers, the old podcast I used to run, the whole page demonetized for reusing content. When the only content on the whole page The whole page is stuff shot in this studio on cameras I own and edited by me. Hundreds of hours, literally thousands of hours. All of it here by me. And they send me a message and they go, you've been demonetized unless you can prove that your content is original. And I sent in a cell phone video that said, hey, this is me in my studio. Here's the studio and here's the microphones and here's the computer I do it on and there's the like, what else do you need to see? And they sent back, that's not enough evidence that your content is original, so you're free to delete the unoriginal content and reapply in November. And then because you've been demonetized, they take away your ability to contact them again. It's the most labyrinthine thing I've ever seen in my whole life. It's like, have I said that? It's like trying to get out of an IKEA. You cannot do it. There are no arrows on the floor. It is madness. Cut to today, I have a a whole different project, a science project, a passion project that one of the founders left the company, and he was the one who had the full access to the Facebook page. So I sent him a message, and I go, hey, man, can you reassign the access to me so I can make, I need to change some things. And he sends back a message, sure, man, I took myself off. Well, he took himself off without assigning me full control. So I started an appeal process to try and, hey, here's me. It's my company. Here's me on the company website. Here's me on the letterhead. Here's me on the corporate paperwork. Here's all me. Everything's me. It's me who owns the domain, all of it, at least on paper. And I go, what else do you need? And they sent back, this account has been suspended. This is what I talk about when I say that you can't possibly navigate that well. You can't be adept at that, good at that, and creatively doing anything of any sort worthwhile. You can't. Someone is running that side of things for every single person you appreciate doing something beautiful online. You know who? Ryan Reynolds isn't pushing those buttons. I'm not saying I'm Ryan Reynolds. I'm just saying when you read the clever thing he wrote, he probably wrote it because I write stuff. But the figure, that outlay, that's not him on his phone. Any president that actually posts their own messages, you also shouldn't vote for. These nonsensical people. Why am I so bitter today? It comes down to when I'm thinking about where to go and why I sit so comfortably in the nothing that I'm doing. I've said this before. I try to make reversible decisions somewhat quickly and loosely, and I try to make irreversible decisions. I like to think long and hard about them. It takes me a while to make those kinds of decisions. And on the surface, it seems that deciding what you're going to output onto, like what kind of bullshit disposable content you're going to start making for social media would be a reversible decision. Well, you could just try a bunch of different iterations, except if you zoom out a little bit, a reemergence onto it with that level of fervor is the big irreversible decision. And I haven't decided yet how that plays out. It's maddening, I'm certain, to watch me take this long on certain things, but I believe I'm right. Speaking of taking a long time, two things that take a long time. Why do TV intros all look exactly the same? They're not made by the same people. These aren't all on HBO. Some of them are Disney. Some of them were various places. You know what I'm talking about? The intros where they take about 2 minutes, they run the credits. It's always some form of abstract creation. There's particles forming. There's something being carved out. There's a statue we're rotating around. There's images in the smoke. Do you know what I mean? They all form an image that you see parts of, and by the time you get to the end, you zoom out, you see the entire thing. It's formulaic. Game of Thrones does it. Black Sails did it. Sandman did it. True Detective, Westworld, Shogun, how many others? The Rings of Power. That's what sparked this in the first place. Because I saw the intro. It was just like the one for His Dark Materials. Every one of them, some version of the same thing. This can't be, because this is the most artistic way to do it. Then I think back to the 80s and the 90s and the sitcoms and how every one of them began the same way, with the same montage, with the same music, with the same credits, with the same still, then their name. And I think maybe it's just us. Maybe this is what we do. Maybe we just find the most efficient, optimal, lowest common denominator way, and then we replicate that until it's no longer the right way, and we do it again. That's disheartening to me, because it's not a game I think is worth playing. That's my point. How long should those intros take? I don't know. Intro to my special was a minute long, yet when I cut it, my views went up 300%. Do people not want the real artistic version of things? Do they want the version that they're getting? I don't know. It's fascinating. Do they not want creative? I don't know. So I'm writing a book. We'll talk about this. We'll get out of here. And when I started this book, it's hard to say this book. It's now a ship of Theseus that has been many things and now is a new thing. And that's how art works. But the second book, when I decided I was going to write one, there have been so many versions of it. And for many, many years, I just worked on it, saying I was working on it kind of purposelessly, just putting words to paper, capturing some stuff. I've spoken about that. In earnest, I've been working on it for about 2 months, maybe a month and a half. And I gave myself until the end of August. I said a first draft at the end of August. Well, that was when I was writing what I thought this book was. And then it's become this different thing. Now the new date was the end of September. And then I start thinking to myself, well, wait a second. Maybe this is bigger and a little bit. This is something more than you thought it was. This could take 6 months, man. Sometimes people take a year to write a book. There are people that'll tell you it's taken them 2 and 3 years to get a book out of them. Some people tell you 10, right? How long should a book take? For that matter, how long should anything take? And if that's the case, why can't we speed it up? That's my question. If in my head, this book might take me 6 more months to write, why can't I do that in another month? Why is that so impossible? And my gut says you just speed it up, right? Well, it's going to take you 6 months because you're only going to write 4 hours a week and you're going to drag it out, and it's just going to take that long because you're not really into it, right? That's one way of looking at it. But it's not the same if you just say you're going to take those same amount of hours that you'd have spent over 6 months and slam them together, because that suddenly is, 96 hours. You can't do that in 3 days. If you just went 96 hours, well, that's certainly not 3 days, because that's like 4 days. If you could do 96 hours in 3 days, you'd be impressive. But if you're going to put those 100 hours to work, doing them all at once would certainly have diminishing returns. Stretching them out over 6 months is going to also have some loss of return. So maybe there's a sweet spot in there that is just the fastest you can do something really well. And I'm pushing myself to find that, because this is something I want to get done with. It's been, some of the stuff I'm writing about won't even make the book, but it's like, oh my God, wow, we had to revisit that. There's some amazing stuff that I haven't thought about either, which has made it like, oh, I should write more books so I can unearth all these other memories. But the point is, I am eager to get this one in a finished draft form so I can move on to an editor and then figure out the best way to get it out. And I'm also excited about the new comedy show. And all things are good in my world. I just think it's interesting to ponder all the different ways we consume and how we make stuff. and why it drives me nuts. And then I can get a little bit of my neurosis out and drink a little bit of tea and scream and yell, and I feel better about myself. And then I'll go lose myself in a bag of Hershey's Kisses and a round of Fortnite, and all will be right with the world. If you play Fortnite, leave me your gamer tag and maybe we'll I'm on PlayStation, but whatever, it's cross-platform. So we should play is what I'm saying if you made it this far. Cheers as always for hanging out on the Midnight Spaceship on another episode of the Slade Ham Experiment. We'll see you soon.